From my sophomore to senior years in high school, I wrote and completed my first novel. I sort of gave it an edit. I sort of made a second draft, but it was really just my first venture into finishing a draft of a novel. I got it personally printed just to mark the accomplishment, and I showed one of my high school teachers who had been a significant mentor to me. But before I even had the chance to explain what it was, she gasped. "You got it published?" My heart sank, as what I thought would be a nice moment to share a personal accomplishment became a message I inferred. Keep in mind, my mentor did not intend this message at all, but what I heard was, creating this is not enough. It needs to be validated. You need to be validated. And that inferred message would linger over me for years as I sought to find my identity in the success of my writing.
Because maybe I'm not good enough.
Yes, you are.
No, maybe I'm not.
Yes, you are.
Maybe I'm not.
You are.
Maybe I'm not.
You are.
There are no two words in the English language more harmful than good job.
I need to do something substantial in order to get the attention of the clubs.
Why?
Because they're exclusive and fun, and they lead to a better life.
Fast forward to adult life. From the years of 2017 to 2020, I was stuck creatively. I graduated college thinking I would write and publish an amazing novel. I had self-published 2 previous books by this point, that first one I mentioned and one more in college. Rushed, under-edited, did not perform well, but in my head, this next one was not going to be like them. This would be traditionally published, the real deal. I would get that validation I always wanted from my writing. All I needed to do was to finish the next story I was working on and pursue the process with more dedication.
How to start? I'm hungry.
No matter how hard I tried, no matter what schedule I set, no matter what I was learning, I just couldn't finish the book. I read things, I listened to podcasts, I downloaded software, I set goals. Nothing was working. I didn't feel like working on this manuscript anymore. The project intimidated me, and my heart was filled with anxiety over creating instead of joy. In my perspective, I was wasting time. Not only that, I was failing. My teacher's words and the way I perceived them still filled my belief system. Get another one published. If you don't, you're worthless. But then something changed. I read a book out of my desperation, which transformed my perspective on creating. This book isn't a sponsor. I'm not going to sell you anything. I'm just going to tell you what I learned. Because after I read this book, I wrote a novel in 3 weeks last November. Okay, 3.5. But remember, before that, I had been working on a previous novel that I couldn't finish for 4 years. And so if you're like me and you struggle with your creative process, I invite you to listen to the lessons I learned from this book. Now, I have to stop teasing at this point and tell you the book I'm referring to, The War of Art by Steven Pressfield.
The dragon that we have to slay is internally based. It's internal self-sabotage.
Here are the lessons. First, recognize resistance.
Loathsome resistance!
Not that one. In my creative journey, I often found myself hitting a wall. I would schedule time to write, then feel not only a lack of motivation to sit down and do it, but a fear, then a sort of sadness. Why don't I want to write? There was actually a common problem behind this cycle: resistance.
It's the resistance.
No, not that one. Steven Pressfield defines resistance as the thing inside us which keeps us from doing the creative work we have a desire to do. He calls it the most toxic force on the planet. It stunts us and makes us less than we are and were born to be. You know that feeling when you want to create, but you're intimidated by the obstacles? Maybe you suddenly become tempted by other things.
Local resident SpongeBob SquarePants only has a few hours left to complete his essay. and yet he continues to goof off. When will he learn?
That's a manifestation of resistance. Or maybe you've blamed other things and people for not giving you enough time to create. That's resistance too. Resistance doesn't want you to accomplish your goal. So inside you, it will gnaw and pull and make you feel lazy or frustrated or play the blame game. Resistance to Pressfield is the enemy. We all face resistance because what you're making is important. It makes you feel alive, who you were meant to be. It might even make a large impact on the world. Pressfield illuminates the fact that the more weight you feel toward your passion, or the more courage it will take, the more resistance you will actually likely feel. Now, that said, it's not enough to just recognize the problem. To get back on the creative horse, I had to transform how I thought about the life and identity of a creator, which brings me to the second lesson from the War of Art. Think like a professional.
I make this look good.
Pressfield distinguishes between professionals and amateurs.
Don't say people, I'm doing business here, man.
Okay, dude. Do it your way. But they're amateurs.
This has nothing to do with where your paycheck comes from. It has to do with your mindset. The book describes that a professional doesn't do their creative work for any other reason than out of love for it. Simple as that. This means a professional will persist, will stay patient, and won't burn out the way an amateur does. An amateur might play around with their creative interest here and there, dive in on a vacation or a weekend, and then complain that they don't have enough time to write or that it's too difficult. This is the essence of the difference between the two. To change the way I create, I had to become a professional. And this is still a journey I'm growing in. Rather than making me harder on myself, it's helped me keep a balanced view of what's realistic for me in my creative journey, how that fits in with the rest of my life, and how I can keep creating. The professional distances herself from her instrument. Have an identity outside of your work. If you see yourself as just a person who enjoys making novels, you're in a sweet spot. You are thinking like a professional. But if you see yourself as a novelist whose sense of worth must ride or die on your success as a novelist, you're thinking like an amateur. And this was me, and this is me on the worst days. This was the lie I believed for years. But I'm getting better. If you struggle with this, I want you to know how much I empathize. I need you to hear this encouragement. You are more than your creative passion. Ironically, seeing yourself in a broader view is not only healthier for you, but it also empowers you to do amazing work in your creative field. Don't conflate the creator with the creation. The professional does not take failure or success seriously.
What's wrong, Teach?
It's just, I've been waiting on this day for my entire life. I thought I'd feel different.
Similarly to having a broader view of yourself, you need to de-escalate your view of every single creative project. Don't think, this next novel will be the one for me, as I did. Even as I'm editing my completed draft, I have already begun on a new project. Because that one book isn't the golden goose, and that's not why I'm doing it. I'm creating because I love it. Creating is beautiful and mystical. As you look at that wonderful thing you've made though, I would urge you to consider it almost like a product. Pressfield calls this viewing it as a craft and not an art. And I don't mean the word product in a shallow, materialistic way. That term has actually become one of the best words for me. It allows the creative act to stay fun and spiritual and life-giving, but it keeps criticism of the thing I created from hurting my soul. My work is a product. It's part of my craft. Criticism or failure of that product only helps to make me a better creator who will create better things in the future. And last, the professional self-validates.
What is he doing?
He's beginning to believe.
Just as resistance is internal, I urge you, find the internal sense of self which reminds you that you're doing what you should be doing, that you love what you're doing, and that you're not going to let resistance take that joy away from you. When I was in college, I made a major turn in my life and lost 80 pounds of unhealthy weight. Sure, I relied on a Fitbit, an app which gave me reminders, friends, classes, and more, but every day it was up to me to get up in the morning and say, I'm going to run. I'm not stupid for doing this. It's okay that elderly people are passing me on the track. I'm not hopeless. I'm not doomed to be the way I was. I'm getting up and I'm working on this today. What was amazing was that I felt healthier inside long before other people saw that I was on the outside. It was because I had already taken on the mindset of a professional. The professional fights resistance from within, and you can too. I want you to know that I sincerely want you to succeed at creating whatever it is you want to create. If you feel that fire in you, I hope you know that you're not alone when you face that resistance in you too. Get out there and do what you were made to do, and I'll see you in the next video. This video was sponsored by no one.